Thanks, Ms. Seta. Thank you. Prof, I see your hand is up.
Yeah,
I think
you
you're
also
going.
mentioned my name.
I'm going to the gentleman in the back. As a follow-up question, yes.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on this in terms of when you talk about innovation, you understand that you need a lot of finance. If you go to research chair, that is only going to give publication, then it defeats the whole purpose. So we need to understand that perspective as well. That's the follow-up question.
You want to stop it?
Yes, to respond and leave. So the innovation part, the adopted approach, different approach, is that we not only funding for the research papers or the student to conduct research only and not coming up with the innovation. We also fund the innovation that comes out of the example is given to the live project that the students are currently developing, and also through our partners, we will be supporting the students who are coming with other prototypes up until they commercialize. Partners such as your SIDA, your SIFA, your NYDA to assist these young fellows who are coming up with all this new innovation.
Thanks, Hugo. I think I just want to add to that and just say ultimately the concept of Hugo around African solutions for African problems is ultimately understanding what challenges exist within the technology space. How do we address it? And can we actually build technology, hard and software, that can be whitelisted to be able to solve these issues? Prof, I'll just allow you to follow up quickly. I think
thank you very much. I think to be very honest, the question here is very critical. And of course, if you want to do something very serious in the country, we have to take this advice. There are quite a lot of centers of excellence. We have centers of excellence in learning and teaching. And there's centers of excellence almost everywhere. Obviously, when you evaluate the output, you don't see a difference. It's purely research and whatever. I think this one is different. And this is where I actually see MIC's thinking as innovative, and we appreciate it. Let me give you one example. A master's student from the center asked me, Prof, I want to do research, and I want to charge mobile phone without energy from ESCOM. I said, take the energy from the air. And then she looked at me and said, this guy must be very crazy. And she went. Immediately she helped me, I called my professor friend, engineer, who's the professor of engineering. I said, my student challenged me. And she wants to charge my phone, do research to charge my phone without wireless. And then the guy said, hey, use solar. I said, but I know solar more than 40, 50 years ago. Solar has not been very successful. And then for just ordinary mobile device like this, you don't need solar energy to do this. And this student came back 3 months after and said, Prof, I've gotten the solution. I couldn't believe it, that I took the energy from the air, but I was only able to get 1.6 volt of energy to charge mobile phone. But I said 1.6 volt cannot charge mobile phone. So, but I was allowed to finish her master's and for a PhD continued. And then she graduated with master's and she continued the PhD. Now, during the PhD, she got 9.6 volts of energy to charge this mobile phone, and they were able to charge that in my lab, in the Seta lab. And now she applied to this university. Why she did her PhD? And they asked her in the interview, what do you do, what research you did, and PhD doesn't she explained. They gave her a job immediately. They don't have this skill. So that's an example of what should happen if we want to transform this country. I said so many times ago that we don't train students in the university for them to come out and look for a job. They should create jobs, obviously. And that skill is what we need. So you will not appreciate what we are doing, but if you find time, maybe you can follow me. I will take you to our center of excellence and then take you out to see the kind of infrastructure. Just last year, we got an award from China. I was giving an award of innovation. We also got an award from British Council to innovate sub-Saharan Africa based on what the kind of project we have done. And those some universities in Africa also did that. But surprisingly, there are 3 awards. We got all those 3 awards from our center. So we are changing the knowledge space in the country and saying, look, the approach of learning will move away from that. So learning should not be more of skill, and then we came up with EPI, engineering project innovation, engineering concept of innovation project. So students now, as a professor, I'm not going to go to class to teach students. We give them the equipment and resources. If you come to our center, there is no learning equipment anywhere in the world you can see in our center, including the drone and the robot. Yeah. Just 3 days ago, 6 of my class
I'm sorry.
I say, make sure the robot is on your side. What kind of equipment will you provide for you? So this is the kind of knowledge that we want to come out from the university, and in that direction, I think
I have to stop the Prof is available during lunch to be able to ask and answer any kind of questions which you may have. Right, so I think we've reached the end of the Q&A session. I think we've gone over by 8 minutes. Colleagues, we're now going to end or move towards closure. With that, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce, and even though it is not protocol for me to introduce the chairperson of the board, it is protocol for my boss to introduce the chairperson of the board. However, when you are delegated a function by your boss, it is protocol. So I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce to the podium our chairperson of the board, Mr. Simphiwe Tovela. He is an experienced and continues to serve a number of entities. He is a strong believer in good corporate governance and doing things right. And he definitely is a champion of the work that we do at the Mict Seta. He also carries in his backpack a whip from time to time to pull us all into order, but we thank him very much for his contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Simphiwe Tovela.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Natalie. I don't think I like this thing of being introduced as if I'm an important person. So, for me, it's just to say the next item on the agenda, Simphiwe Tovela is coming to speak to you, and that's it. We stop at that. So, that's enough. But anyway, thanks, Program Director, for the good work that you've done. And I'm not sure whether the CEO asked you to do this work because you're a local girl. This is plowing back at home now. So you show what you're learning up in Johannesburg. And so you must know she's from around. She's from around. And I thought we would also have brought the CFO, who's also from around, KZN, a little bit south of Durban. Mr. Mseleko is the CFO at the Mict Seta. So I thought it's important to mention this to you guys from KZN and know that they are not representing you, they are representing their country. They are not KZN representatives. So I'm just saying so that you don't go to them and say, can you do me a favor, my homie? No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But let me thank CEO and the rest of your team that has been, this is the last of these engagements that you've been having across the country. I think it's a very important thing that you're doing. We must not assume that people know what we do and how we do what we do and what we expect from them. And that's one part. But the other is that we should not assume that we know your issues without engaging with you and you telling us how you feel about the work that we do, because we don't do this for our own, we do it for you and most importantly for the learners and the country as a whole. I must also just appreciate your attendance, Prof. Last time I saw you, we were launching the research trees at DUT, and your passion doesn't cease. It's palpable all the time, and I really appreciate that. It's only when we've got that passion that we're going to start driving towards results. The one thing that this country doesn't do enough, and I've those who are around me know, they know it by now, even when they doubted at the beginning. One thing that doesn't make me comfortable is to sit in boardrooms and have all these good talks that we have, but nothing gets done on the ground at the end of the day. That sickens me a little bit. And I get impatient when that happens. And because I don't understand when we say we've got $500 million for training. And back in the day, I was told that there were times when sitters would not spend money, would sit there. But then there's hunger for skill in the society. And I asked myself, why are you keeping this money? And probably money spent on wrong things, not on in terms of the mandate of the organization. That is history now, right? And I can tell you it's history because at least since my arrival, and it's not me who does things, but it's those around me. My task is simple, is to create space and an environment for those who do the things right. That's all I have to do. We have gotten a clean audit from a financial management point of view as an MICT, and we want to keep it that way. Because this is not our personal money, it's public money. This is South Africans' money, not our money. So we must manage it properly. We must account for every cent that we spend, right? And I'm confident that's what we're doing as MICT Seta, and we're going to continue in that trajectory. But it's not just about how we manage the money only, but it's whether the results are delivered. And that's where you feature. Now I throw it back to you. Because the work that you do as training providers, you do it on our behalf, right? So you represent MICT Seta, which is why we've got a formal legal agreement with you to do this work for us, right? And once we enter in this formal agreement with you to do this work for us, we must stick to it to the letter, spirit and the letter of the law, do they say? I don't know, the learned people, how they put it. But then the point I'm making is that that's SLA. It's not a tick box thing that says, yeah, I've signed the SLA, but let's have a meaning of each and every clause of that document. It's a legal document. And why do I say this? There's been an outcry somewhere, and I hope it's not here in KZN. There's been an outcry elsewhere that we are terminating people's contracts, right? And when people call and say the CEO has terminated my contract, I start by saying, yes, I agree with him. So why did he terminate it? You can tell me after I've told you that I agree with him. Because I know he's not going to be irrational, right? If you breach the conditions of the contract, you are actually repudiating that contract. Isn't that correct? So, if you don't live up to the requirements of that contract, rest assured, we've got a legal responsibility to terminate it. And I raise this because we have learned at some stage, 1 year, about 2 years back, one training provider who had 4 contracts, forget that the fact that he should not have had the 4 contracts in the first place, using 4 different companies but 1 director, right? And we picked up that actually the learners that he's using the same learners in Cape Town and Free State to claim, right? Now, this is fueled by a mindset that says Setas are our piggy banks where we can go draw some cash if you want cash. And it's people who are unpatriotic, who do not understand they are not supposed to be in this space. Because here, what we're trying to do is to prop up our economy by providing the necessary skill that's required by the economy. And if you don't do that, and you siphon money from the organization, you're actually stealing that money. And I think we've got to open a case in that regard, right? Yes. Because we cannot accept that. We're not going to agree with it, eh? We can't. We can't. So it would be a banana republic if we do that. And don't tell me that it's a mess elsewhere. So if it's a mess elsewhere, it's not going to be a mess here. So we will not accept that. We're not going to take it as a thumb rule that it might be a mess free for all everywhere. No. No. This is our country. This is our future. This is the future of our kids. This is not our world. This is a world that we have borrowed from those who are coming after us. And therefore we've got to take care of it. They must find this world working. They must find this country working. They must find this country worthy to live in it. Right? So we can only do that by us as Mict Seta doing things that we have to do. You as training providers doing what you have to do. And if you don't do what you have to do, you then have given us a right to terminate that relationship with you. Right? Now, let me address something else that probably I've heard. So some of the training providers are complaining. We are getting small numbers. I can hear already somebody acknowledging that. Indeed. The problem here is that I have a sense that there was an era where people had colonized Mict Seta as their own. I feel, I'm not sure if it is here in KZN, but I know it's elsewhere in other provinces, where there are people who felt they've got a God-given right to get big numbers, whatever happens. But then you do not see the output, let alone the outcome of that. It's a situation where the exit was always at about 30–40%. But then they've been paid for the 100%. How do I account for paying 10 learners, but then you exit 3? And what happened to the 7? And I don't get reports that says what happened to the 7. But the money has been paid. That's disservice to your own country. So we can't agree with that. Right? I'm looking forward to a situation where this thing of saying, what's your exit plan, as you enroll learners, we must then, part of the LMS that we have developed with TUT is tracking the learners that come out of the system. We must see where are they? Are we training them for the streets? What impact does this make? Or are we then just creating businesses? Because here, training, my chief, thank you TUCDO, you're working well with us. I should have thanked you first. Otherwise, we risk being in conflict with you, and it's not a winning conflict for us if we do that. So we thank you. You've been supporting the whole time. But the point I'm making is that, so we must trace these learners and see what the impact that we're making. So the rand value and what we get for it, it's something that we must measure. And these training providers are critical to that part. And some of these things that I'm talking about might be, people who do things wrong. When there's a meeting that may possibly talk about the wrong things, they don't pitch up. So I might be saying these things to you and you're not party to this, and those who do these things are not here to listen for themselves. And I'm not necessarily, don't go around and say, I said every training provider that was not here is guilty of what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, I hope everybody is here. Back to the issue of numbers. And I'll tell you why I was talking about the issue of numbers. So one training provider, apparently in this process that's happening now of allocations, gets vetted, and he's applied for 700 learners, and he gets told that no, it's not even 10% of what you have applied for that you'll get. And then angrily called me, no, the CEO, no, we applied for 700, he can't just give us this number, this low number, we want 700. I said, before I even understand where you're coming from, I agree with you. then we can have a discussion. After you know that I agree with him, if we're not giving you 700, whatever the number, then let's have a discussion. What's your point? The issue is here, colleagues. See how many you are. This is 500 million for the whole country that we're talking about, right? If we were to give high numbers to few individuals, what would it mean for the rest of you? And of course, we're not arguing that let's give low numbers like 5 learners. That's not going to make sense from a business point of view, right? Unless it's a specialized field, like if you are on radio, I don't think you want to train 50 radio DJs at once. It's not going to happen. So it's going to be a limited number. So it's understood. But from a business sense, we have agreed as EXCO and board that we will up the numbers. What was the threshold? 15 minimum, right? That was some day. Can't remember. But we've upped the number so that it makes sense for you, because you must not run yourself down to try and deliver. You must deliver, but also have something to live on, right? We appreciate that, okay? But you can't say this, you can't come to this space purely because they say profit margins are healthy in the trading space, and therefore that's the only reason that you are in the trading space. Then you're in the wrong space. You can't agree with this. But then let me talk about something else. Prof, the reason that we are partnering with universities, the new board, we said we think the universities are underutilized in this country. And the skills revolution generally must also appreciate the role of the university as a womb in which great ideas will be conceived and solve societal problems, right? That's the thinking that we have. We don't have all the resources. We don't have all the money in the world. It's limited budget. But with the little that we have, we'll do what we have to do, which is why probably, as you say, Nomzana at the back, that you hear us talking about software development, little on hardware. There's little that we can do, which is why we believe on collaborations and partnerships. So that the little that we contribute, the university will bring something on the table, or another stakeholder will bring something on the table, and it's going to help us to have results in that particular field that we are dealing with on the set. And I've been discussing with you now on aviation. I've got a bit of link, I had links with your aviation. And I was challenging them to try and develop some solutions on aviation using MICT as a bedrock for that, and we can do that. We have to develop digital towers for this country. Everybody else is going that route, and our systems in our towers, control towers for the air traffic management space are still very manual, and yet we're supposed to be elsewhere. So we cannot have those computers, but we can start having discussions with you and see other partners and say, how do we then develop this and make it a practicable solution? Let me go towards ending, because I'm told there's lunch, and probably it's my favorite item. We are going to continue. Let me thank first, before continuing, let me thank the regional office staff here in KZN. KZN is in the top 3, whether you're talking about levy payers, or the learners that are being trained, or the training providers. You are in the top 3 in every aspect of what we work with. So you're a critical stakeholder for us. But I also, Prof, want to suggest that some of these training providers must start thinking on how do they work with university.
Yeah.
Sometime last year, around May last year, I was in Silicon Valley with the CEO and the minister. Some of the best solutions that are there, and some of the unicorns, as they call them, those companies that have come out of the Silicon Valley in California, are linked directly to Stanford University. You can, if you talk Yahoo, is a product that came from Stanford University. A student that went for research and discovered this thing and got support from the university, and it developed to what we see today. There are many others, just making one example. So if we start seeing the universities not as ivory towers of some people who wear nice fluffy gowns and for graduations and stuff, but it's people who are thinking about how do we resolve problems of society and work with them, we'll be on the right path. I hear, this kind of troubles me at times. You hear when somebody speaks and says, no, what you say is academic, as if something that is academic is wrong. So I think we need to change our mindset and see how we relate to universities. So I invite the training providers and all those who have got proposals on how to deal with societal problems. At DUT, I came across and saw learners that some of whom were talking about developing apps to track animals where there is stock theft in the mountains of Lesotho, other one irrigation and all. So then it was kids who come from communities where there are problems, and when they get to that DUT, they start thinking, how do we resolve problems that we see at home? And we must, as training providers, start thinking, how do we start relating with the university and leverage on the knowledge that they have. He's a wealth of knowledge, that professor sitting there, and he has to be utilized. I don't know how old you are, and we must get the best out of you now, before you are old, to a point where we can't get anything from you. With that, colleagues, I wanted to then appreciate this taking time, because I know you could have been anywhere else and making much more money than just sitting here and listening to noise makers like this one in front of you. But my call is that let's love this country, and the way we must show love in this country is by doing things right, managing things right. Because in the legal space that we are in, let's do the best that we can. And I say this with confidence because we've got a minister that is so supportive, Minister Blades Money. I've worked with many ministers in the country, but I've never seen and found a minister as supportive as Minister Blades Money. A minister has never called me, not once, to say to me on the side, hey, there's something else that I want you to do there, but then don't tell people. He doesn't do that. It's a man that says, do the right thing and tell me that you have delivered on what I expect you to do. I never get calls at night that want me to go somewhere behind shades and start talking things that may not be said in public. So with that support of such a minister, I think we owe it to our country to do the right thing. And I thank you for coming. And now I'm hungry, I've spoken. The session is adjourned.
Lunch is served in the foyer just outside of the doors. Thank you for joining us. Cheers.